Welcome everyone to this week's video. This coming week, Oklahoma HR Conference, April 24 through 26. It's going to be happening here in Tulsa at the Hard Rock Cafe, casino rather, not cafe. Hope you can make it. It's going to be a stellar event. It is the premier event annually for organization development and human performance professionals in Oklahoma. So please join us. 11:30 on Wednesday, I will be presenting at one of the lunch sessions. I'll be doing my talk. It's entitled, Why Did They Do That? Human Performance Tools for Safety Leadership. Today's video is an overview of that presentation that I'll be preparing this Wednesday, delivering this Wednesday. Why am I doing it? I'm doing it for two reasons, to hopefully convince some of you who may be on the fence about whether you attend or which session you attend to come to mine and come up afterwards and shake my hand. The second reason is that the tools that I'm presenting are not just for safety leadership. In fact, they're so fundamental and in some ways so simple, not simplistic, but once you get it, you can use them to drive the performance that you want in a multitude of areas. Safety is only one application, so it's extremely useful. I hope you get a lot out of it. I will give you a little bit of warning. Today's video is a little bit longer. We get into a little bit of the weeds. So, hope you're going to enjoy going there with me. Now, in order for us to move forward, let's get clear on a couple of basic definitions so that we're on the same page. The first one is leadership. Now, by leadership, I simply mean the ability to get people to move in the direction you want them to do, right? Influencing people to take appropriate action. Now, okay, so what is safety leadership? Well, you just kind of add safety on the front of it. That means we want people to act in ways that create a safer work environment. Finally, safety leadership tools, which gets us to what we're talking about today. Tool is a mental framework, a way of thinking and analyzing the situation that managers and supervisors need to have in their heads so that they create the environment that influence people to make the safe choices we want them to take. So safety leadership tools. Now, why am I even having this discussion? Pretty simple. If you've been in safety or around incident investigations for long, you'll know that a lot of them come back when we look at why did someone walk under that load or why did someone get hurt, and we dig down deep into it. It comes back as the cause, failure to follow instructions or inappropriate supervision, which is kind of another way of saying we don't exactly know why that really happened, but it should have happened, and so we're going to blame it on one of these two people. It's either the worker or the supervisor. Now, what we want to do is help us come up with better answers for that. What we want is effective action, something that we can change in the work environment so that people are less likely to commit that error or produce that incident again. We just don't want to, we want to drive down our incidents, right? So we want to take effective action. But in order to do that, we've got to, first of all, know why. And this is from the point of view of the person who took the inappropriate action. What were they thinking in their head? Not why do we perceive it happen, but what do they think? Why did they do it? The second reason, we need to step back and be able to look at what are the variables that are involved in performance. Now, because those words can be taken in a lot of different ways, you probably don't know what I'm talking about at this point unless you've been in one of my workshops before. Become clearer in just a minute. There are certain things that everybody needs to do any job. So we got to understand just what those variables are. And then finally, which of those are significant for this particular situation where the inappropriate action was taken, so that we can pull on particular levers to make for a safer environment. So that's why we're doing what we're doing today, which brings us to our first safety leadership tool. It's called action analysis. Now, what's known when something bad happens is that somebody took an inappropriate action. What we don't know, first of all, and we've got to determine, is this something that they meant to do? And in fact, we'd call that a non-compliance. That is, there was a rule there, they knew what the rule was, and they just didn't want to abide by it. So it is a non-compliance, or they didn't mean to. And we call that simply an error. But wait, there's more. Because once we know that, you can actually break down the types of non-compliances. There are at least 6 different variations of the non-compliance. And I'm going to put these out here real quick. One's called exceptional. That is, if the person hadn't broken the rule, they broke it in order to make an unsafe situation safer, right? They ran up the ladder to get something they were supposed to be tied off, but if they didn't get up to the top, something was going to fall. So we call that exceptional. There's situational. There is things that we do for team benefit. We actually think that will help the team for us to break this particular rule. There's what are called routine non-compliances, or what's also known as normalization of deviance. There's ones that are done for personal benefit, as in, no, it just makes my life easier to break this rule, okay? And there's willful negligence. I knew the rule, none of these others applied, I just didn't care. Now, I hope you can see that depending upon which of these it's found out was the case, we're going to apply slightly different fixes to them. Okay, do you get a sense of that? By the way, in the workshop, we'll explain these in much more detail. Now, the errors. Not every error is the same. Some errors are knowledge-based errors. That is, I simply didn't know that the rule had changed. I didn't know that our procedures were different, and I just broke it. I created an error because I didn't know the rules. There are, however, that's the knowledge base. There's actually rules-based errors. If you've ever tried to tighten a left-hand knot or loosen a left-hand knot where righty-tighty, lefty-loosey doesn't apply, you'll know what I mean. I thought I was following the rules, and the rules I followed didn't apply in this situation. There are memory lapses. And before you, see you rolling your eyes, before you do that, with all the things that people have to juggle and keep in working memory, there's only so much that can happen. And from time to time, people literally do forget important details. Finally, there's what's known as a slip. You meant to put your foot on the brake and you put your foot on the accelerator instead. I mean, it literally was a slip. All of these are errors. And again, different fixes apply. We'll talk about in more detail, but certain things should stand out for you. So, when we have a non-compliance, how many have heard or said, send them back to training? How effective is that going to be? Wait, they knew what the rule was. Whichever one of these were, they knew that there was a rule there. They chose not to do it. Training won't do anything. On the other hand, so they didn't mean to do it. They didn't know the rules. But you know what? We're going to threaten them with their jobs or do some other kind of disciplinary action. And again, if we've been working long enough, we've seen leaders do this when the error was, they didn't mean to. But how effective is a threat if I didn't know I was breaking the rules anyway? Will that fix anything? No, it won't. So we have to determine, back just to finish with this tool, and there's a worksheet that goes along with this. When I'm dealing with an incident, which of these am I dealing with? And then the worksheet points you to particular performance variables that you need to investigate, which you may need to shift in order to produce a safer environment next time. Which brings us to our second and final tool, which is known as performance engineering. Now, performance engineering, there was a gentleman by the name of Tom Gilbert, wrote a lot in the early 60s, but he came up with what's known as the behavioral engineering model, which has stood the test of time. These are 6 big picture variables that are involved in any and every performance. Now, the first one is information. What do people need in order to do the job? Well, they need to know what the expectations are. And part of the information bucket is also what we call feedback. Now, that's simply information that people get as to how well they're performing, right? So there's the info bucket. Then there's the resources bucket. And in order for anybody to do the job, they need time, they need tools, they may need standard operating procedures, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the stuff they have to have that they don't have, they can't do the job. Last one is incentives. Last one in this row is incentives. Okay. What accrues to people both positively and negatively for performance done or not done. Okay. And these should involve some kind of financial and other. Okay. Then there is the skills and knowledge bucket. That is, what do people need to know in their head and practice with their bodies in order to be able to do the job. There is capacity, which is a little different. I can practice shooting basketball all day long, and I can develop skills and knowledge, and I can be told I have to do it. And I can be given the proper basketball, and I can get $1 gazillion to do it, but I will never be able to do that job well because I can't jump that high, right? I literally don't have the capacity for this. Last one is motivation. And by that, that's really looking at both preferences. Does someone, in fact, like to do the kind of work we're asking them to do? And expectations of success, if you know anything about expectancy theory. Now, all of these are involved in any performance. Again, in the presentation that we'll be doing, we'll go into them in a little bit more detail. But then, okay, so how do you use that? Well, we've got what's known as a performance engineering worksheet. We borrow from another great thinker in the field named Kurt Lewin, did a force field analysis. And it's looking at the relative strength or weakness of any of these variables as we currently experience them. Because the performance system that you have, the combination here, is perfectly engineered to give you exactly the results you're getting. When people get hurt or fail to comply, the answer is somewhere in here. It's built into your system. So if you want to shift performance, we've got to shift these variables. This worksheet sends us back to the actual environment to look at what's going on, to identify where the weaknesses are, to come back and take effective action. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. These are 2 theories. They are conceptual tools that have been found to be useful over and over and over again. I look forward to seeing you if you can make the presentation again this Wednesday, the 24th at 11:30 safety leadership tools. You will need to sign up. Google OKHR and sign up for my lunch presentation. If you can't make it and you want the tools, please reach out, look in the contact form, right? There's one at the bottom of this page, I believe. If not, just click contact, it'll take you there, and type in that you want the PDF for safety leadership tools. I'll be glad to get it to you. Thanks so much. Until next time, be well. Okay.